Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. I'm Rebecca Lawrence and this is Voices. In this set of interviews, I will be focusing on issues of inclusion, diversity and allyship through intimate conversations with wine industry professionals from all over the globe. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps us cover equipment, production and publication costs, and remember to subscribe and rate our show wherever you tune in.
Before the show, here's the shout out to our new sponsor, Ferro Wine. Ferro Wine has been the largest wine shop in Italy since 1920. They have generously supplied us with our new t-shirt. Would you like one? Just donate €50 and it's all yours. Plus, we'll throw in our new book, Jumbo Shrimp Guide to International Grape Varieties in Italy. For more info, go to ItalianWinePodcast.com and click donate, or check out Italian Wine Podcast on Instagram.
Welcome to the Italian Wine Podcast. This is the Voices series with me, Rebecca Lawrence. This week I am so stoked because I have with me an amazing woman in wine who, honestly, I admire her so much. Jodie Hellman, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I admire you as well, and I'm really glad to be a part of the series.
This is going to be such a great conversation. So to kick us off, I like to start most of these conversations by asking my guests to introduce themselves to our listeners in case they're not aware of who you are. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're currently working on.
All right. So my name is Jodie Hellman, and I live in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, where I work in distribution, wine, spirits, and beer for a company called Johnson Brothers Distribution. And actually, this is a brand new position for me. Just started working for this company. Prior to that, I had been working for an import company for the last 6 years, and due to COVID, made some adjustments. So I am really excited to get started in my new position. I've also worked on the Las Vegas Strip as a sommelier for about 10 years for some pretty well-known chefs internationally. And, that's kind of where I got into wine just in general, was from working in restaurants and growing up in the restaurant business. It was something that I always went back to. I was supposed to go into commercial art. That was kind of my plan for college. And I got a job working in a bar in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and was having way too much fun. And thought, well, I can always go back to school. And then I just kind of got sucked into the world of hospitality and then kept moving forward and moving up until I found myself working on the Strip in Las Vegas. So, and got involved in wine from that side, and then decided that, well, working nights and weekends isn't as much fun. I'd like to have a little bit more of a life, and then kind of went on to the other side of the wine world with actually selling wine and educating people from the other side.
It's a really nice conversion of, seeing both sides of the industry. I think it's so valuable when you get to the other side, when you get to educating or distribution import, that you've worked on the floor, that you've had those customer interactions. I think it gives you a whole other set of skills when you're dealing with clients or when you're presenting, that maybe if you had gone straight into that side of things, you just wouldn't have that kind of little bit of extra.
Yeah. Well, for me, it gave me the idea of, well, who do I want to be? Because I knew who these people were that were coming to see me. And I tried to take the best of the things that I liked about the people that came in to make a sales call and channel that into what I wanted to do and how I wanted to present myself to others. So, because there's some people that you really liked when they came to see you, and other people you maybe didn't have as much time for. So it's all at the end of the day about relationships. I know it's kind of, the things that everybody says, oh, it's relationships, but it is you want to have a comfort level with people. And, I wanted people to feel comfortable with me when I showed up. I wanted people to be happy to see me.
Wow. And I think you just exude that when you talk to people. That's certainly, I think, how we connected, because it was so nice because we first met during VIA in New York. And you do just exude this interest in other people, this genuine desire to connect with people. And it was one of my very early events with a new team. And it was just so nice to have that comfort level coming from someone not directly in the event, but experiencing the event.
Thank you.
So, talking of VIA, perfect segue. One thing I do know about you, you are the perfect combination of glutton for punishment and determination. Of course, you know that I'm talking about your decision to return to Verona and tackle the VIA exam again this year. Maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about your VIA journey and why it was important for you to come back, and also to come back to Verona.
Well, a part of the challenge for me, you and I have had the chance to have conversations. I think I grew this passion for Italian wine from actually coming to Italy. I had started really working more with French wines, and had the opportunity to go and actually work harvest in France. And, here everybody was always talking about, oh, it's so hard to learn Burgundy. Oh, Burgundy's so hard. La, 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 la. And Burgundy is this teeny tiny little place within the country of France. And then I got to Italy. And I'm like, okay, well, no, Italy is really, really hard. But it's hard in a good way. It's a challenge. There is endless opportunities to learn and educate and learn from different regions and areas. And so I kind of looked at it as a giant version of Burgundy. I'm sorry, I don't mean to insult any Italians out there, but I hope you understand what the comparison is. It was just never ending. And for me, I need to have my interests held. I need the challenge personally to be able to continue forward. Once I master something, I tend to just lose interest. And I feel like Italian wines for me it's a never ending way of information, and I'm never going to lose interest because every region, all the different grape varietals, and now we're starting to get so much more involved in the soils, and it's a lot. And I kind of got brought in through another friend that had gone through the program originally, and I mastered every exam I've ever taken in the wine world. With the Court of Masters and taking some WSET classes, I've never had any issues. So when I first came to take the exam, I took it in Verona, and I did not pass. But there were two things that happened. One was I was super frustrated because, like, wait a second, I've passed everything. I'm smart. I should know this stuff. And then the other thing, though, that was secondary that happened, but was really the best thing about it, was the amount of people that I met from all over the world kind of focused on the same thing and how it brought us all together. I'd never been in a room with people from Russia and China and Japan and Canada and South America. I believe that first year we had somebody from Dubai in that particular course. I don't know that you were around just yet, Rebecca. But that sense of community and staying connected to all these people after I left was like, all right, this is something bigger than just the test. There's a real connection here. And it was, I was hooked. That's it. I could learn from other people as well. And it was all connected through Italian wine. So that was how I got started. And now it is just a challenge for me to figure out how I'm going to pass the exam as a personal challenge, because the rest of it everything else that I get from being a part of the community is actually more important than actually passing the exam at this point, even though I need to do it for myself. for just a personal challenge. The connections that I've made over, the last couple of years, actually, because we lost a year in 2020, has just been invaluable.
Yeah, I love that about VIA. And I had a similar experience to you in that passed all my other wine exams, absolutely no problem, came to VIA and just failed spectacularly on my first try. And it was that huge shock of like, wait, what? But it's one of the things about VIA that is so great in this community is that everyone around you is like, but it's okay. Like, we can get you through this. We work together as a group. We support each other. It really is that kind of melting pot. And I think particularly in Verona, in the flagship course, where so many people from around the world come to one place, you get everyone's different perspectives. You get what they've been talking about. It's really fascinating to see, like you say, this group of people from all over come together to share their passion and determination to pass VIA and become ambassadors. And speaking of the community, actually, you are a huge part of that. You are instrumental, I think, in the community now. And you went a step further this year, which I would really like to talk about, because you were part of a group that set up a clubhouse to help people prepare for the exam, which is not something that has happened before during VIA. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about how that came about, how people reacted.
Yeah. One of the things that in planning for 2020, there were a few people that I had known and locally where I live that were planning on taking the exam. So we had decided to set up a little tasting and study group together before we all had gone. And one of those, two of those people were actually in New York when we had taken the exam. One of them lived in LA at the time, who I know you know very well, Patty Robeson. And she had moved on to another city. And the other folks that were planning on taking the exam in 2020 decided not to participate in 2021. So Patty and I had stayed in touch. We had known each other in the wine world prior to VIA, just from the sales side of things, where she was a buyer and I was selling wine to her for a while. And we became friends from that side and stayed in touch. And then Clubhouse had started, or Stevie Kim really got involved and wanted to get a lot more people involved in Clubhouse right around the same time as we started talking about how are we going to, now that she was so far away, we couldn't do weekends together or weekend trips, driving back and forth to study. How are we going to put this together and really, come up with a way that we can study? And, Clubhouse just started becoming a thing. So we decided to start our own little Clubhouse group, and we utilized the same outline that we had planned on using before. And then it kind of started off as a chat and like a support group, if you will, for people that had already taken the exam and didn't pass the first time and wanted to figure out a way to get there and talk about their own experiences. But also there were so many new people coming in. It was a way to prepare them as well of what, this is what we did and this is how we approached it the first time and it didn't work. And then then more people jumped on board that had passed and added into what worked for them. And it really kind of grew into this really big support group of, conversations of what works, how are we all gonna accomplish this together? What does everybody need? And then that helped with emails back and forth. We started a Google Drive that everyone could access with, we gave assignments. So we had gotten up to, I believe it was about 20 people in the group from all over, and then basically split Italy up into assignments and put them on the Google Drive and made little mock exams. That was part of everyone's assignment, is everyone had to make a mini exam based off of the same format of what the VIA exam was. So, if it was, okay, you have to come up with 10 multiple choice questions from the region that you've been asked to work on, and upload that so other people had a study guide. Do a 3-part multiple choice question so that everyone could practice doing their essays. And we didn't ask anybody to do videos. But, and that's how we felt like, because we never know what's going to be on the exam. So it was a way to kind of get your mind working in taking a test. So, because a lot of people aren't necessarily in school. There's a lot of academics that come and take the course, and people that are writing and always looking at new information and do that for a living. But there's also a lot of people that come and it's just a hobby for them. So they haven't taken an exam in a really long time. So we felt like that was a very important part of kind of like getting people warmed up. So, and then using information that we all found helpful, different books, different websites, other Clubhouse conversations. Shout out to Hugh, and day drinking. But there's all kinds of information out there that people could access. Obviously, the Italian Wine Podcast. So and letting people know, go here, go there, and sharing all that information together.
I just think that's so incredible to really take the network of people that you have already and then find a way of bringing them together. Like you say, it came out of the fact that you and Patty couldn't get together at weekends. So you just naturally found another way to make that happen. And then slowly people just started kind of gravitating towards this support system. And I think a lot of people in that room during that exam would not have been as prepared as they were without having had that kind of divide and conquer approach. I think it's amazing.
Well, thank you. It's something that, I think for me personally, it was the thing that kind of made me feel, even though I didn't pass yet again, the fact that there were people in the room that I knew were a part of that, and got something out of that, gave me more satisfaction than actually passing anyway. Like it was easier to take this time around. It was easy. It was an easier pill to swallow that I didn't actually pass, because I looked around the room and I saw people that I knew that were a part of that, and people that, Patty and I were able to help as well. Because as you know, Patty didn't pass either, which is it's the ironic thing about the whole thing. But, there was such a sense of pride, like kind of, I don't know if I would call it mama pride, but still that, feeling of just like, I know that I really, truly helped someone. And so I'm there, I have the knowledge. And now these are people that are a part of the community forever. And that was, at the end of the day, the thing that really, I wasn't as disappointed. The only time I got sad was when I got a text from my dad because you were there, and it was more about, getting, and it was a huge and beautiful supportive message. So that, tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. But at the end of the day, it was like, wow, this is awesome. It keeps getting better every time.
Yeah, it really, it just shows the warmth in the room during those days. And particularly, I think, obviously, the Verona edition this year that you took part in was an agile edition, so theory online, and then coming together. We actually managed to get people together for the tastings, but a very different experience. So you adding that kind of extra layer to the community this year kind of feels like you wove the web between the two different parts. Like you and Patty and the Clubhouse kind of study community that built this bridge between people sitting at home alone trying to study the theory, knowing that they were going to come and suddenly be together in these rooms doing these really intense tastings. You really built the bridge between those two things. And I think without that, a lot of people would have struggled a lot more. So I'm incredibly proud of what you guys did. I think it's amazing. As someone working in education, seeing that happen and doing all of that stuff, just, amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think, someone who has become a friend and, will be a friend for life and actually um, gave us that kind of feedback was, and ended up passing was Cynthia Chaplin. Her main comment throughout the whole thing was I couldn't do the connection by, when she had gone through the Just Agile edition and didn't pass. And this is someone that, works with Italian wine every single day. So I was like, I feel your frustration, sister, but, she was like, this was the thing that I needed. I just needed that one little bit of human connection to push me over the edge because everybody learns at a different pace and also in a different way. Things that some people use flashcards, some people can't use that. Some people need, like, I'm very tactile and need to touch and smell and see, and that's how I remember things. And so when she had told us that this was the thing that she felt like that connection put her over the edge, I felt like I won when they called her name. It was awesome. It was great.
I feel like I need you in my educational development team. If you ever want to switch again.
Well, it's one of my favorite things, I think, just about wine in general. And I was talking about Italian wine specifically is it is never ending what you can learn and the directions that you can go. I mean, you can sell wine, you can educate other people on wine, you can make wine. And you can go to all these other places and everyone has something to teach you. We had an opportunity to take a few extra days while we were there, and travel and talking to people that are working with, other winemakers that, a lot of people know in other countries, and they're working together to experiment and talk about things across borders. And it's amazing. Like, people don't want to stop. They want to get better and they want to push the envelope. And watching for me with education, you see when the light bulb goes off. You see the difference in someone's face. You can see it in their eyes. Like, I get it. Like, they don't shout it, but their body language changes, and that just gets me all excited. Like, I can see it. They're getting it. This is great. And so, yeah.
You're a born educator. You're absolutely a born educator, because that's the thing that makes education just so wonderful, is, like you see, seeing that spark.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs testing and.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, being an educator, yeah. So I've taken enough Myers-Briggs, tests for jobs and things like that. And it always goes to, you should be an educator. But this is the hardest job. It's the hardest transition to make too. But but the personal, the feeling that you get inside, for helping somebody else is what makes it worth your while. So I still haven't done it yet, but it's always it's always lingering in the background, So, I mean, in a way, I get to educate people now, but it's not at the same level. So I need to educate myself first. I need to pass the test.
So actually, speaking about that, and speaking about educating, maybe you can help educate me as someone who works in traditional education, because we have actually had, personally, a lot of conversations about the challenges of quote unquote traditional education, and how many assessment techniques can be really challenging, either for those who are not, traditionally academic, or for those who've been out of an academic field for a very long time, who, like you, clearly have all of this knowledge, but can't seem to get it through the test. You're using it every single day in your professional life, and yet that box hasn't been ticked for, this exam or that exam. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about kind of the challenges of that, particularly in your experience of education, because I know you've got some thoughts, and I need to learn. It's what I do. I'm in educational development. I need to learn from you. how we can change stuff.
I need to find out exactly what, I need to find out how my brain works. I know for me personally, just from a young child, my issues were always attention and comprehension. So because I'm a dreamer. I am that kind of personality, a dreamer and I want to know everything. I am the why kid. Why is the sky blue? Why do we need this kind of tire on our car? Just whatever there is, if there's a question to ask, that's just how I'm curious by nature. So, so that side of things, I'm constantly looking for information and trying to ask questions. But when it comes to the comprehension side, I haven't personally figured out. I've tried different techniques over the years, so I don't know what the answer is, quite honestly, for myself. But I think the key is to not stop trying to figure it out. Determination. If you have, I'm the person that you can't tell no to. The moment you tell me no, I can't do something, that is when I am going to dig in my heels and I am just going to keep doing it until I get it done. I worked in sports entertainment many, many years ago. I won't even go back to how far along that was, but there weren't any women at all because it was sports and it was entertainment in sports. And I just was looking at all these guys having fun. That's all I saw was, wow, this looks really fun. I want to do that. And, they said, you can't do this because, you're a girl. So I just kept at it and kept going. All right, so this way didn't work. Now I've got to readjust. How do I get there? I needed to find the path that worked for me because there is no cookie cutter way in education. There's identifying. I feel like you need to identify what the problem is first and then go and find the way that works for you to fix it. Because there's many of us that may have the same learning disability, if you will, but we don't necessarily all use the same techniques to get past it. So, for like somebody that's dyslexic and can't read, or for me, I have to read sometimes the same paragraph 5 or 6 times before the words come together and I can comprehend what it's actually saying. It just looks like a bunch of words on a sheet of paper. So, I don't think there's one set approach. I think you just need to stick with it is really the only thing that really works, is make changes, make adjustments, and be willing to do that if it's something that you truly want to do. If you don't really want to do it, why are you wasting your time? Don't waste your time on that. Find something else. Find something that makes you happy. Because then it's a, stupid and futile gesture on your part to, work for something that what is it? What am I looking to accomplish by learning this at the end of the day? What is this going to do for me?
I feel like, probably without realizing, you hit upon a really important point there for both educators and learners, which is sometimes I think forgotten because it's so obvious that we forget it. And that's that everybody learns and approaches learning in different ways. And I see this classically with a lot of education, that courses are built with only one way of learning something or one way of approaching something. Whereas, you're a tactile learner, I'm visual and aural, so listening to things, making up songs about things. I notoriously make up raps when I learn about wines, and I'm super, super visual. Oh God.
Oh, I can't wait to hear one. Maybe the next podcast needs to be a list of your wine rap songs and Aaron Demara, because part of our trip afterwards, I don't know if you've ever heard his wine raps. Oh my God, they are incredible. Yeah, there we go. There's a conversation for you to have, is Italian wine raps.
Because this is something this is something I use when I'm teaching. I use wine wraps in the classroom because there's probably someone sitting in that classroom looking at the projector or looking at my scribbles on the whiteboard who's not connecting with that at all. They need that information in a different way. And I think what you said about, don't just assume there's one way to do it. Don't assume that there's a problem with you in the sense of like, just because you need to find a different mode of doing it, that's not a bad thing. In fact, that's actually a really positive thing. So I think we touched on something super, super cool. So we haven't got loads of time left. So I wanted to talk about something else you managed to do in Verona this year. You were invited to judge for the 5-star wine selection, and specifically for Wine Without Walls, so the sustainable, organic, biodynamic category. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your experience. It was your first time joining the selection, and maybe what it meant for your tasting confidence.
Well, yeah, it was definitely something that I was surprised and honored to be a part of the judging. Looking around the room of the people that had been a part of that group, there were so many people in that room that I had admired from afar for a number of different reasons. There were winemakers in there. There were people that were writers that I knew of their work. There were people that I knew just from the wine community, educators. There were some, so-called celebrities in there. It was such a great group of people and people that I admired from afar. So to be a part of that, first and foremost, was very flattering. And then to be able to sit down at a table with a smaller group and everyone had a purpose and had a different background and purposefully had a different background, with every table having someone that made wine and, somebody that wrote about wine and somebody that sold wine and someone that worked in a restaurant and someone that had retail, having that smaller group in those conversations to listen to how other people approached it, and everyone, because they had a different background in the smaller groups, approached the wines a little bit differently. I felt very lucky as well in talking to other people, throughout the couple of days and what their challenges were. Our group was very in tune, very, very similar in their likes. There was the occasional offshoot, where one person was just, I did not, care for this at all, or really, really was passionate about something that maybe everybody else wasn't. But for the most part, I had such a great experience because I was with a group of people that, was like-minded and, similar palates. So it kind of, for me, validated what I was tasting in the glass by having the opportunity to do that and do it blindly, because as these wines come out, you can't see what the wines are. You literally, that it's red or white or rosé or bubbles. And until, you taste it, you don't really know what you're going to get. Where basically it's from and what the grapes are most of the time. They give you a tiny bit of information and that's it. And you are truly evaluating something based off of merit, not because it's somebody that not because your judgment isn't tainted a little bit by, having a relationship with someone or having, experienced the wine in the past. I think sometimes those little things influence our thoughts on stuff and influence our decisions because it's human nature, because you want to like it, especially if it's a person that you like. So it was really interesting to taste a lot of wine from a lot of different places and really evaluate it in that circle of people. So
Cool. It's such a wonderful space to be a part of. It was great watching you guys taste. So Speaking of tasting, before we kind of wrap this up, is there a particular Italian wine that you're enjoying at the moment? Is there something you've discovered recently or something you've come back to that's just bringing you a little bit of Italian wine joy?
I keep tending, there's not one thing, and that it really is what makes, at the end of the day, what's so great about Italian wine is I know that there's some people out there, hashtag Verdicchio boy. There are people out there that really do have a passion for just one thing, but because there is so much to learn about, I get sucked in by one thing and it moves me on to something else. And to me, that's the pleasure of Italian wine, is being able to go back to things. Just recently, in my new position, we think about the North, and, I never really thought about it as much in thinking about Soave. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I tasted a wine while we were there that was, a 10-year-old Italian white wine as part of opera wine. And, and there were a lot of people after the fact talking about this one particular producer and this one particular wine, and the fact that Italian white wines can really age, and, that people didn't think that before. So, it's those little moments. It's more about the aha moments than any one thing in particular. Like, aha, this is incredible. And wanting to share that with everyone immediately. Oh my God, you got to go taste this. Oh my God, you got to try this. And then, going back to it and learning about it, an area because of that, one special glass of wine.
Yeah, and that is truly never ending when it comes to Italians. Jodie, thank you so much for joining me on the Italian Wine Podcast today. It's just been so nice to talk to you again, and also to share your passion for this stuff with the listeners, because obviously I'm very familiar with it, but it's nice to get your voice out there on this series. So where can people find you, online or on social media?
So I am on Instagram at Jojo Wine Girl. On Facebook, it's under my name. It's Jodie Hellman. On Twitter, I'm not on there enough to remember. I think it's Jojo Wine Girl on Twitter as well. And, and then just reaching out on any of those. WhatsApp is under my name too. I'm in the community, so you can reach out separately if you'd like. If anybody is interested in coming to Las Vegas, we love having people visit. So, and there's probably a lot of people in the community that recognize there are actually quite a few members of the VIA community that live here specifically, probably an unusual percentage of people that live in this area. So there's always people here that you can reach out to besides myself, and are always happy to share a glass of Italian wine and share a little bit about our city, because we love our city as well. Yeah, so if you ever find yourself in Las Vegas, please reach out.
One day I will drink a glass of wine with you on your home turf, not my home turf.
Well, one thing that we can do, I haven't done it in years. I did it for 5 years in a row, but I know this is your side thing, so maybe this is a challenge. We do a half marathon and a full marathon on the Las Vegas Strip at night. They only close the Strip twice a year, New Year's Eve, and they close it for the marathon. So if you're ever up for one of your running experiences, I will do a half marathon with you on the Las Vegas Strip if you ever decide to come out here and run. I put out that challenge.
I just started my half training a week before the marathon for VIA started. So,
oh my gosh!
One day I'll catch you up and I'll get that.
Okay, yeah, we'll come out here and we'll have a good time.
Thank you to everyone for listening. Don't forget to follow us on social media, subscribe, and of course, donate on the website to make sure we can keep these great conversations flowing.
Listen to the Italian Wine Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We're on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Himalaya FM, and more. Don't forget to subscribe and rate the show. If you enjoy listening, please consider donating through ItalianWinePodcast.com. Any amount helps cover equipment, production, and publication costs. Until next time, Cin Cin.